pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we thank you again for this opportunity. We can be here, Lord. We just ask you to open our minds and let us make the best decisions that profit the community, the school, and most importantly, the students. I ask you to be with the military, bring them all home safe. In your name we pray, amen. Amen. All right, before we get started with the approval agenda, we have one thing. I'm requesting the board on any decisions we make now, instead of having a general yes or no, we do a roll call vote. So kind of copied the city on that, and it kind of holds everybody more responsible in what they want. So we'll need a first and a second on that if anybody's interested.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if we need to take
Do
a
it.
motion. Yep, as long as I think we're okay.
You good?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think we're
I mean, we
okay.
do it when one of us is out, so we call,
Right.
you know.
Yeah,
we do it in
so,
virtual.
just
Yeah.
make it straight
Okay.
forward.
Yeah.
We'll go right to approval of agenda then.
Okay. Just ask that you approve the agenda with the addition of 7.8, which is a donation to the use of the FFA.
Make a motion to accept that.
I'll second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call.
Tim,
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Bev.
Yes.
Okay, patron comments. Do we have any patrons who'd like to address the board at this time?
I will call out to folks that our school attorney, Mr. Tim Shelley, is with us in the back row. He's hiding on purpose, but we won't turn any cameras your direction, but he did drive down to join us tonight, so, yeah.
Board minutes.
Just ask that the board approves the February 16th board minutes.
I make a motion that we approve the February 16th board minutes.
Been moved and second. Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
and Bev.
Yes.
Action items, 5-1.
Yep, claims approval.
All right, I move that we approve claims 9178597 through 9178717 and payroll 4 and 5.
I'll second that.
Moved and second. Any discussion?
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Bev.
Yes.
We got field trips coming up, 5.2.
Yep, I ask that the board approve a field trip for field lunch. This will go along with something we talk about a little bit later, but to end his STEM camp this summer, he would like to take the group to Wright-Patterson. Since that's out of state, we do need board approval for that.
I make a motion that we approve that field trip for
Second.
STEM.
Been moved and second. Any discussion on this? Roll call.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Bev.
Yes.
And personal consent agenda.
Um,
Wait a minute, on that field trip,
Yes, sir.
when I have the classes coming out to, when I'm Thailand, will we have to have
No,
if that's close here?
that's a great question. So only time we have to do board approval if it's outside of Darke County, Ohio, so out of state.
Okay.
Darke County, we allow as an allowance by mileage, and then overnight it. But yep, local, you'd be fine.
Okay.
Personnel items here. First of all, we have a list of coaching recommendations for next fall. They are attached to the agenda. And again, that's posted online for folks to review as well. And we do have a resignation from Cindy Nunez from the high school, one of the high school agricultural positions. And I do just want to publicly thank her for her time, her 7 years here with us as well. Wish her the best of luck. But I think the board can accept those all together if they want to.
Real quick, we will be then trying to fill that position or fill the open position for you.
We will when we get the numbers, so the course request numbers, I think that's definitely something we're gonna have to look at based on what those numbers are, those look like going to the fall. So I know that Bruce and Jason, they're close to having those buttoned up for us, and we'll certainly have that discussion, so.
Okay. Need a motion on this?
Yep.
I move that we accept the personnel consent agenda with employments and resignation.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion on that?
Jerry?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Beth?
Yes.
I just want to make a comment about Ashley Sweeterman. She
Yes.
has, since I went down and talked to her about getting the class to be able to come out, and she's been in contact with me constantly. I mean, she's really taken a hold of this, and she's going to
All right, that's great.
grab a hold of it. We're going to get something done.
Great.
And she's a young, ambitious young
Yes.
lady, and we're pretty pleased with her work, I'm sure.
Okay, updates on 6.1.
Updates, so I have a number of updates here. First, we'll start with the dual sport participation conversation, and I think we may need to give Mr. Thornburg and our coaches a little bit of direction on this. On Tuesday, the Tri-Eastern Conference agreed to remove the policy of not allowing dual sport athletes in the conference bylaws. But they wanted that to start in August. So they kind of met us halfway. We have found that I think we might be one of the very few conferences in the state of Indiana that don't allow student athletes to participate in dual sports in the same season, which we talked about that the last time. So we really are kind of faced with the decision on do we allow an athlete this spring to go ahead and participate in two sports under the contract that I shared with you all, and kind of see where it goes. And if I'm being honest with you, there are conference schools that have done this in the fall and kind of had a gentleman's agreement that they didn't consider soccer a TEC sport, and that's how they kind of skirted the rule. I still am 11 years into disagreeing with that theory, but we do have the bylaws changing. They'll be effective in August, but we do have a student athlete that would like to play baseball and run track this spring and has been practicing to do so, but obviously no events quite yet. So would like a little direction on thoughts from the board on the topic.
And we've also put in there, he has to pass.
All
Right.
all-
I guess I'm still
Yeah.
kind of a little gray in my mind on the, he can't participate in a conference meet or a conference game, or how does that?
Yeah, so
Make sure.
I think there's three directions that we can give. One, we wait till the fall. Okay. Two is we allow the young man to participate in all events this spring. Or three, we try to meet the conference in a position and say you can compete in everything but meets with other conference opponents. The hard part is with track, because most of those are dual and tri-team events. Most of those have conference teams there, but I think there were 4, Jason, that sound right? 4 events that he could participate in this spring that don't involve a conference school.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't penalize the other, like the other relay, part of the relay team. Yeah, I'm not sure what he runs and
Sure.
everything else, but
Right.
I just want to make sure that they're not going to be penalized. Because they would potentially, maybe baseball would be the,
Right.
okay.
I feel like we should let him try it.
Okay.
Please.
Let him, so
Do we have to make a motion on that?
I don't know that I would feel better
Yeah.
if there was a vote, to be honest with you, because it is an athletic policy change. So, yeah, but I just want to be clear, are we in favor of him participating in everything that we deem that he could
Yes.
go in and deal with the conference as
it
we go?
falls. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And I will share that I'm in favor of that. I do support the Tri-Eastern Conference finally coming around, and I know that we will probably frustrate a couple folks, but we've been frustrated about this for a long time because of some other things, so it sounds like we got a motion
Yeah,
to
we need a
move
motion.
forward with the dual sport contract as presented.
Did we need a second on that?
Yep.
Read it, but, okay, Jerry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good job.
Need a second?
Second.
Jerry?
Yes.
Linda?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Wendy?
Yes.
Bev?
Yes.
6.2.
All right,
Honor
the next
guest.
item here is an update. So we've had some good conversation on the establishment of field space, whether that lands on school grounds or the west end of the park. And as directed by the board, we wanted to have a little more conversation. So we've invited members of the city to come in and speak today. So Mayor Spence has got a little slideshow, which wouldn't really surprise anybody that he's prepared with the slideshow. And then I think the plan would be for us, Mayor, to, I think Jerry and Bev and myself attend your next Monday council, not the Monday, the last Monday council meeting. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Mayor, you're up as soon as I get this pulled up for you, partner. All right.
Awesome. Well, yes, thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here, and appreciate each and every one of you in this room, big time. Yeah, as far as collaborating, I think we've demonstrated, hopefully, that there's huge dividends when we come together, work together. And we've seen the fruits of that labor already. But Bev had posed a question I know that I can completely align to and had some concerns with, and is, you know, the concept of having the soccer fields on school grounds, and then we've got this giant lot on the west end of the park that used to accommodate soccer, or has previously. And so, but we actually have a plan that you'll get to see here soon that addresses that, and then hopefully we can make all these pieces of this puzzle fit. So the plan would be, obviously, and this is something we try to do on a daily basis, and I think everybody does in their own home for that matter, maximize and optimize the available space, and in this case on school and park grounds, delivering more opportunity for our youth and our citizens. So if we're accomplishing that, we're setting ourselves further down the road for success. But why here? Why in the school grounds? Well, number one, we want to obviously support everything we can do to help create a premier soccer program. And the participation, the way it's been conveyed to me is high in terms of the interest level on behalf of the students. But one of the thoughts behind that is if there is really a premier soccer program available to the school, all these kids that want to play soccer, if those do indeed exist, and they're playing here, then their families are coming here, and then the opponents are coming here. And if we have the adult league here still, they're coming here, their families are coming here. What we're doing is we're setting, I feel like there's someone behind me. I see everybody looking out this way. What we're doing is we're setting our school, I don't want to say on a pedestal, but we're promoting our school. We're highlighting our school grounds with the hopes that everybody will come see what is Union City all about. What is Randolph Eastern all about? We should always be looking to promote that. And we want to not only expose a tremendous school complex with the hope of growing our enrollment, but we also we want to increase our exposure to the kids coming in, because kids do change. Now the flexibility is off the charts in terms of kids being able to change where they go to school. So the competition, therefore, is also heightened. You're competing with schools within your own county, for that matter. So, but another thing, and this is fundamental, and this comes from an infrastructure standpoint. Unfortunately, we do not have the established restroom facilities out at the park on the west end, because it is a park, and we've traditionally made do with outhouses. Well, to facilitate a school program out there, it's not conducive to that and to families coming in, and it doesn't promote the image certainly that you guys would want to promote for a school program. It's not that isn't in the works, but its fruition would delay tremendously the actual implementation of a soccer program for the school. So, and then the last thing is having it here creates a complete complex for sports. Everything's here. Your basketball, your football, baseball, it's all here, softball. and soccer and tennis. So why not the park? Again, I kind of went into the fact of the restroom facilities. They're just not sufficient. And it would absolutely hinder the soccer program. So you'd be cheating your juniors and sophomores, most likely out of any soccer activity. And I mean for the fruition of their attendance here at the school. But also, we have tournament. We want to take the park back to its roots. I can remember going to the park and watching Tony play baseball. And we had a couple nice baseball fields there on the west end of the park. And it's set up nice for that, actually. And so we actually want to establish a baseball and a softball field on the west end of the park. And unfortunately, there's not enough room to do that to also facilitate the implementation of soccer fields. We couldn't do it all. We've got to pick one or the other. And so because our baseball and softball opportunities, we have adult league opportunities. And then we also, there's also the possibility that we could host youth tournaments as well, if that would be a possibility for the interested leagues. So we do have a plan on the west end of the park. It's just not there yet. And again, the restroom facilities is a big one. So one of the questions that's arisen is, what if the school wants or needs to expand, which is an awesome opportunity and an awesome dilemma to have. Well, the good thing is these are just grass fields. We would actually, you would not be hindered in any way, shape, or form. And in fact, by having the soccer fields here and not like a baseball field, for example, you wouldn't have any dugouts to remove or fencing or anything of that nature. And maintenance of the field, the striping machine, obviously we would absolutely help facilitate the striping of all the fields, school and adult league field. Cleanup of the games would be monitored by the city, at least for the adult games, like they would be if it was at the park. So that's a given. No matter where you have it, we're going to be on the hook for that. And then school obviously would handle, youth events. Mowing, it's still grass. So, and then potential, and this is something I threw out there, and this is welcome to the webs in my brain. Opportunity for vendors, potentially, food vendors, because like the adult league, for example, that's a lot of people coming in. And they do have vendors, I believe, that like to come in. I would put it up to them that, hey, if you think about it, the school implementation of a soccer program is feeding the adult league eventually. If adults around here that want to play soccer, this is where they can get their start. So because of that, if you think about it from the mind of a vendor, you're helping perpetuate their business. If you support our youth league, if you help support our field maintenance, just a donation is all we're asking. Because I don't know what the rules are for school grounds and charging vendors and so forth. So whatever, I'm sure there's a workaround in terms of a donation that could be achieved to help maintain the fields and the maintenance. So that puts you that much further ahead. And so in which it would really put you further ahead because you'd still be just mowing. So that's all you're doing now, and that's all you should be doing. So because of that, we hope that it makes sense. And you go ahead and flip to the next screen. This is the plan. I apologize. It's kind of hard to get a grasp of where that is probably for a lot of folks watching at home. But you see that I always go by the curve. So when we take that curve around to go back to the football fields and the baseball complex and everything, that curve is to the left of it's where all the action would happen with soccer. So you see the spacing is completely available there to put these fields on there where nobody's crunched, and you're well within your grounds, and you're able to provide ample field space for your kids and the adults. And it really, to me, it looks like a tremendous opportunity. Here's a quick sidebar. Does anybody know what a soccer field's called? I didn't know this. Pitch. I heard somebody say it back then. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's called a pitch. The only pitch I knew was on the baseball field. So, yeah, you'd have, there's your glance at the pitches, if you will, back behind the school. Yeah, Jared? Absolutely.
This is your main drainage ditch that drains this back here.
Uh-huh.
And you got a natural waterway that's running through here. where surface water runs through here, how are you gonna address all this, when you get big rains, how are you gonna address the water, getting the surface water?
Right.
How do you, have you got a plan for that?
Yeah, so Jared, that field there, the big one that you're pointing out, that one is already crowned. So what happens right now is water
Is the
gets.
water coming down?
It gets
Okay.
caught in that corner right there and makes that south end of the
'Cause
practice.
this is your main drainage ditch.
Right.
It'll be underneath your soccer field.
So that south end of that football practice field gets really, really wet. And we get,
It would be my plan, Jerry, because Aaron and I have also talked about maybe looking at a parking lot in that general area to put some catch basins in there to get the water gone quickly, in that south end of the current football practice.
where it says
field.
preliminary,
Here?
Yeah, in that area.
Parking lot here?
Yep.
Then you could access it from here instead of the road, the back street then.
That's
correct.
correct.
The catch basins make a big, we gotta put one in.
Yeah.
It helps.
Good call up though.
Yeah.
What other questions do you guys have?
How are you gonna handle the alley?
In terms
The
of,
one-way traffic and everything else. I mean, that's just pretty much a one-way. I mean, you can, safely go unless you're, how are you gonna handle that? I mean, the traffic, because you're gonna get a lot of traffic there, and that's gonna make some of those homeowners unhappy.
well, we had that situation last year, didn't we, with the league previously? One way could definitely be the way we would navigate it, keep it a one-way alley, keep it heading west. Would that be, do you think, be the advisable thing to do from a traffic flow standpoint?
I mean, it's
'Cause
not
it's
a one-way
divisions
alley.
one
It's
way.
not a one-way alley.
I know it's not, but you get a couple cars going there, you have a bunch of people and everything else, it's gonna cause congestion.
It
I
can be
mean-
tedious, but if we build the parking lot, in my mind, if we build the parking lot in such a way, we can reduce the number of vehicles coming down the alleyway, because the point of access would be off of the paved road that runs behind the school.
So on the parking lot, then, who's gonna incur that cost? I mean, is it gonna be split between the city and the school? Is it, I guess these are questions, I'm
Yeah.
just wanting to know.
Absolutely.
And if it is, have we got estimates to look at what this is gonna cost us?
Right.
I mean, that can get expensive, time you get your dirt, your base
Mm-hmm.
and everything.
Chad,
Yep.
can that slide up into where the alley's at or not?
Can that slide up?
Can you slide that up and where you see the alley?
Oh, no, I'm so sorry.
Okay.
No, I can't. Yeah, I wish, yeah, unfortunately it's.
Sorry, I don't mean to keep picking.
No, you're fine, you're fine.
Like,
Do we
I'm
have the
expressing
parking
concern.
laid out for the parking?
I have not laid parking out, because that conversation's come up in just the last 10 days.
Gotcha.
they, like Bev has a map that kind of outlines.
Kind of talks about it and everything.
Gotcha.
That's the original from October, I believe.
Yep.
So, and I know you mentioned restrooms. I guess we don't have, the only restrooms we have are what's located in the school building and down at the track and football field. Now, I know we tentatively have those for the CTE building, but that's no guarantee that we're gonna actually put those on at this time. Maybe it may be in a year from now, or what, or decision be made. I guess when we talk about the restroom thing, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat. They'd have to have a porta pot or whatever at either location right now.
You guys couldn't open up your restrooms down there at the field complexes?
That's a long walk.
Yeah, we could, I
And that's, I mean.
and that's where the conversation about putting the restrooms on
Yeah.
the CTE building came from,
And,
which they won't be there this fall.
yeah, and then you're gonna have that gate unlocked for people
Right.
going in and out at all times that could be
Sure.
But we've been leaving that so people can walk back there too.
But not on the weekends and everything, have we? I mean, it's gonna be open quite a bit and somebody's gonna be responsible for locking it up and everything else, cause we don't want, I'm just throwing this out here, guys,
No,
so,
absolutely.
And on the parking lot thing, I think what we kind of talked about preliminarily was the city doing all the groundwork and hauling all the stone, but our part would be purchasing the stone, whatever that would look like for that space. So that was the conversation that's been had, but that is obviously up for
It'd just be nice to
discussion.
see some numbers.
Sure.
You know, that could get expensive.
And we'll have the numbers for our CT building one,
That went to bid today.
so
Yep, that's part.
soon.
Yeah,
That'll
within,
give us,
yeah, the 1st of August, we'll have a good idea what our bid numbers are on the
Right.
I mean, if we agree to do this even tonight, it's a year away.
And I know the city.
Pretty close,
you know,
isn't it,
does
Steve?
look at- I know we have different events,
I've
you know,
got a
local
contractor
events
ready
and
to
all
start moving
But
with
how do
it.
you-
I
how
just
do you
need to know
control
where
that?
I'm moving it.
That's
Yes,
what,
that's my
they've got
concern,
good
too.
topsoil down where they,
That's
I see
something.
that now.
building.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And
It'd
that's
It'd
have-
be nice to get some tiling,
Yeah.
get some
Yeah.
drainage in there
I'm not
before the
against the
dirt gets
project.
moved in.
Well,
I
I mean,
love the
that's
idea.
one
I just
thing I
don't
want to
quite
stop.
That's,
Get
we-
some tile.
comfortable working
whenever
with
we're ready
Yeah.
And
to
then
move,
I
that's
remember
the,
too. I remember going
that's
out
the
watching
conversation that has to happen
Yeah.
before we start moving dirt, right?
I just really like having everything
You know, I just
here.
got a lot of concerns.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
this is
As far
great.
as
I think this
cleanup and
is a
stuff
great
like
thing.
that.
I think it's
They
got
never-
potential. You know,
You have
just
to have
really wonderful to
plenty
have. It
Mhm.
trash
brings a
cans.
lot to the community.
It has to be dumpsters, not toters.
Right.
Steve, I don't think there's
Make
been
it
one
easy.
time the schools had to help clean none of that up, has there, from last year?
I think just that very first week, your guys got a little bit over
Zealous?
anxious and got out there actually before I did. I did it myself for
I know
the
you
first
did.
3 or 4 weeks
Yeah.
until I had an understanding for how much trash and debris was going to be out there. I think the biggest issue, because I do believe they try to clean up after themselves, I think the biggest issue is we only had 6 toters out there, and I probably needed 10, because when 6 toters get full, trash blows out over the course of the night, and, you know, it doesn't matter where we're at, whether we're at Artisan Crossing, downtown Union City,
Right.
we pick up
Yeah.
beer bottles, we pick up pop cans, we pick up taco wrappers, we pick up all kinds of stuff, even in our downtown corridor. So that's never going to change. That's what our guys do even after an event. If we had this at Hardin Park, Monday morning, our guys would be out there policing and picking up trash and moving toters so that they could be emptied and get ready for the next event. After the rodeo, we clean up cow poop. That's what we do. We want our facilities to be nice. We want them to be as good as what we can afford to provide. And I think we have a great opportunity here. I think even if you choose not to put bathrooms in the CTE building, the city can still come in and build a set of men's and women's bathrooms off of your football practice fields more cost effectively than what we can do it at the park presently, because
Right.
I have no sanitary sewer on the west end of the park. I have no water on the west end of the park. The system that's there is an old septic system that is failing, and it's providing multiple amounts of problems for our guys each and every year. So it needs to go away. We have to do more development at the west end of the park to get this thing accomplished.
If you're gonna do, you plan to do softball and some out there, you'll have to have new bathrooms for that.
Correct. The plan, if the soccer goes here, would be to build an IHSAA baseball and softball field at the west end of the park with a concession bathroom storage facility for all the parts and pieces that go with a baseball and softball. We would look at press boxes, we would look at fencing, backstops, all the whole 9 yards. And keep in mind, you guys are adding, and you're currently playing here in this town, junior high softball, you're adding junior high baseball, your softball and baseball numbers are up. So you have multiple teams already playing on one facility for each sport. So this facility is going to help accentuate the programs that you're trying to develop and help grow currently. So I know for a fact, because I'm getting ready to order some equipment for junior high baseball, they've got 25 kids signed up ready to play baseball. That's never happened in this community.
And I think, to your point, I think one of the biggest hangups is that's the plan for the west end of the park, but because of the costs, I think that is not, and you guys correct me wrong, it's not top on the priority list, so it's years down the road, and we've got a soccer program right now that's gonna need to land somewhere.
Yeah, I would like to see baseball, softball at the park within 5 years.
Yeah.
That would be my mindset on finding funding to build that. Soccer is a lot quicker of a success story if we do it here.
We've always been a soccer community. I mean, back, you
Yeah.
know, 30-some years, 40 years ago, we used to have, what, three fields out there, if I remember right, at one time? Yeah, so I'm not, I'd just like to see some costs, the parking lot, how much the
What about the
dumpsters are
no
gonna cost,
alcohol
any,
on school grounds, how will you address that?
yeah, the alcohol and smoking, that's key.
Signage and officer.
I mean, that's up to you guys to address as far as how you want to do it. I don't think that it's 100% policeable. But at the same time, I think that the community as a whole wants to spend their Sunday afternoons celebrating together, fellowshipping together, and doing what they love to do, and that's play soccer. I mean, if you've ever been out there on a Sunday afternoon, there's 500 to 1,000 people there each and every week, and that it's nothing more than a great big party. What I can tell you is that for soccer, I'm not aware as of today of any large, massive problem we've ever had with, fights or drunk people or anything like that. They're not using it as a party necessarily. They're using it as their form of recreation. They're taking their kids, they're taking their grandparents, they're spending the day in the sunshine kicking the ball. So,
What potential ramifications could we get into if
If,
there's
yeah,
alcohol and everything?
Wait.
As a school, what does that
To
do
be
to
quite
us?
honest with you, we can't kid ourselves and say that
What-
every Friday night that we host a football game, that there's not people going out and having a cigarette and probably having a beer out of the back.
But they're not sitting in a lawn chair with a cooler.
But the
Potentially.
liability is the same. If it's a liability concern, I think the liability is the same one. If it's happening and we're going to get held accountable for it because we didn't enforce it,
Well, you have to change school policy then.
for
Well, you have to make, you're allowed to drink on school grounds.
No, we don't,
State.
no,
no,
we wouldn't do that.
yeah, the policy would remain, and again, I would say that's where I would ask for
Policy
those
remain,
guys.
but we won't enforce
The
it.
guys help
You
enforce it.
enforce it as much as you can.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is, Jerry, is like policy is no smoking on school grounds, but I don't follow the 50 people out of the football gate on a Friday night that go to their cars they're not going to check their cell phones. They're probably going to the parking lot to smoke a cigarette, which is against policy.
I
as well.
will say I've witnessed that at football
Yeah.
nights, people smoking on school grounds. And for what it's worth, take it for what's worth, I spend a lot of time at the park. And with the soccer program, I've been working for Community Christmas for 17 years. And the fields that were out there, when they were out there playing full bore, the 98% of the trash I picked up was potato chips and Cheetos bags, and then Gatorade bottles and pop bottles. The plastic. Overwhelmingly, majority of stuff I picked up. So I don't know if there's a misnomer or a myth about what is being consumed. I mean, I'm not disputing the fact there is alcohol consumed out there or at the park when they were playing soccer, but it wasn't anything that was of high degree. So I don't know why that would be any worse here.
Steve, I would put this to you, maybe a little bit more, because you had more interaction with the leadership of the adult soccer league. You think if that's something that we approached and said, if you're going to be here, here's the expectation that I think because they want to be here and have a good place to play, that they would
They'll
sell
abide by the
police.
rules. Yeah.
So,
Do we get a contract or something or some kind of agreement with them?
yeah, so they'll
If they
And I
don't
think
They would
self-police,
have
we
to
take
facilitate
action.
that.
yeah, they've got to do the
form,
facility
right,
request.
right.
form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I just think it's a great opportunity for us. I mean, you're not going to get it done any cheaper, ever.
But I still like to see the cost. I'd like to have some costs, just to see what we're getting into. And what the city's getting into.
I have
the
no
other
problem.
thing that you guys need to understand is they had 12 adult teams playing here last year. They could probably have 30 if they had more field access. What you're building is effectively, even though 2 of them are striped currently to represent a football field, what you're literally building is the ability to have 3 adult soccer fields. And the real possibility of having 30 adult teams playing here, coming in, spending money in our community, buying gas, you know, shopping in our stores, doing things that people do when they're out having a nice Sunday afternoon.
Then why wouldn't you build a press box and bathrooms right down there, just like you do at the football field?
I'm not saying we don't. I'm just saying that the only reason I don't have that penciled in on that drawing from Moten Associates is because we had conversations about including that as part of the CTE bill.
Right.
So again, that falls back to, you know, school board decision and
Which
how
comes
you
down
want
to
it
money.
move forward.
Which comes down to money.
That's a big water bill too.
I don't have a problem with having the soccer leagues here, having those fields. I think that's a wonderful idea. I do think we'd have to have an understanding with that many more people using the facilities, especially the bathrooms, of who's paying for all those extra supplies and the
Plus the
cleaning
water
and
and
the upkeep on
yeah.
those, because that's gonna be
And
major.
yeah,
Absolutely.
that is.
But as long as we have an understanding.
Who's gonna lock them and unlock them daily? 'Cause you
Yeah,
can't leave 'em
yeah,
unlocked.
I mean, you know, there's some little things to work out, but I think it's
Yeah,
a good
like I said,
idea.
I'm not against it. There's just got a lot of things that still go into it and everything. And
I think if we could take that parking lot and make an access road right next to the alley that goes over to the other parking lot, instead of using that alley.
Yeah.
Because I did talk to one of the
You're
neighbors
still
there,
gonna
and he
get
said,
people going down
I'd
that alley.
rather they'd move it back out to the park. Well, because there was so much access, people pulling in yards when it was too wet,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's one thing that can't happen.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
You could make it a one-way heading west, one way in, one way out type of thing too, where they go into the parking lot heading west down the alley, they go out of the access road onto the curb, and that's how they exit. That'd be the flows all one way. Awesome.
I think that's definitely an option, especially maybe to get back to the youth fields, but I think our best move would be to put in a plan to access off of where our dumpster concrete is, right off our current drive. That gets traffic away from.
Yes.
Right.
And honestly, that parking lot, if you've ever been out here on youth football practice night, we have cars that line our drive, and it terrifies me that someday we're going to get a kid hit because it's really narrow when you have cars on both sides of it because there's no place for them to park. So, okay. Well, I just jotted down some notes for us to do some research, and what we'll do is by the time we come to you, I'll have some answers on some of these costs and those type of things. And we probably a little deeper conversation on kind of like MOU as far as understanding who's going to be responsible for what. Sound good?
Sounds like fun.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank
Isn't our
you.
parking-
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Is our parking already tight on that end for the high school teachers?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's just a
Yeah.
little spot
That's that
anyhow.
alley.
It gets really, really tight.
That road that goes.
All right, next on the agenda is 6.3.
Yes, sir. Coming back to you.
Makes sense to me.
Didn't have-
Next, just an update to the board, let you know that the drawings, I shared the latest drawings for the CTE bus storage building. They did go to bid today, so that'll be out for 2 weeks, and we will get back bid numbers. So we're going, if all goes well with the conversation with Baker Tilly here shortly, we'll have a pre-determination meeting on April 13th. And at that time, we'll do a selection and have a conversation on bid documents.
Was that a steel building?
Yes, yep.
I still wish we could somehow put in the, what's it called now? I just lost the word.
I won't say catch basin, that's.
I know.
Oh, yeah,
Cistern.
water, yeah,
Cistern.
cisterns
There we
we
go.
have. Because if you're talking about using those for restrooms and stuff like that, I mean, that's how it's set up. You know, it's- Could save
That's
us
good
money
catch water
because
for those restrooms, just those restrooms for sure.
it'd be good if you made a good one, because somehow we could get some of the water that comes off of our other buildings piped down into it. I mean, what we spend in water and sewage, I mean, just our water bill alone.
A lot of the water bill is based off your sewage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're still gonna have the sewage no matter where you get the
Right.
water, right?
But still, you know, when you're talking about watering fields and things like that, if we could, it'd be a green move
I'll keep it
for
out
our
front.
green community and
I'll
our
keep it
green
out in front of-
school that's.
I'll keep it out in front of our architects as we get bids in, that is still a desire that we like some numbers on.
I would just think that we've got a lot of surface on this building.
We dump a lot of water there.
Yes, we do.
6.4
Um,
updates.
Just English learner funding conversation. If you go back to our meeting in November, the board approved a plan for kind of where we wanted to be next school year. And I shared a spreadsheet with the board that kind of lets everybody know where that's going to put us financially. And it's just, the numbers from the state right now, current budget, are favorable to Randolph Eastern, but it's really not enough for meeting the needs of our growing EL population. And that's, I guess I preface this to know that at some point, there's going to be a tipping point that, okay, we've met the EL needs, but we're going to have to cut something else. I mean, that's just going to be the reality. We're blessed to know that we've got a huge grant that can help us for the next 3 years. We know that. And what I don't know is there are going to be more grants to follow it. I hope so. We're going to keep looking for them right now. But
If we
I
get
think
the
it's my
preschool
job
on,
as-
then we could start younger. It
Yeah.
would relieve the school part.
yep, and there's no doubt about that. The preschool will help. It will take off the demands of the support that kids have when they're up through fourth and fifth grade. They're
Yes.
100%. But I think our numbers, if they're just continue to trend,
Yeah.
that it's growing. I think it's about 2 to 1, 2 non-English speaking students to 1 English speaking students that we gain and lose. So we just need to be very cognizant of that. If the funding doesn't increase specifically in that world, in my opinion, it should be close to similar funding as what they have in special ed. But it's not that. And I just, again, this is just a conversation for the board that I have a responsibility to, as we move forward and we make these decisions that add staff and that, there may come a day that we're having a conversation on, is there staff that we can do without in order to meet those needs? So again, that was, again, just an update. Like I said, the funding formula right now compared to others is favorable to Randolph Eastern, but it's not where it needs to be to meet.
I think we need to pursue that going to the state
Yep.
and with our representative and the Secretary of Education. And they've all, I've got something possibly lined up with JD to meet with those upper officials to try to get them to come to the school.
Sure. And Secretary Morales is
Yes.
going to be here.
Secretary of State.
The end of August. So we're getting some people, Adam Pitts from the Department of Ed that oversees their EL funding. I had a great conversation with him last week because Jerry called the superintendent of the state of Indiana, and she said, "Hey, I got a call from someone in your community. Can you help me out?" So I talked to Adam, and it was a good conversation. He understands, and he also knows that we're in a unique situation. So they're watching, they know, but right now, it just.
But you gotta keep
Squeaky
screaming.
wheel gets the.
Yep.
That's
You
right.
gotta,
We're
you
gonna
gotta
stay
keep
out.
after, you gotta keep going after.
We're going. We'll stay at the table with them, but
You
just,
gotta be the squeaky
again,
wheel.
You better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
we'll keep out in
Once a
front of
week,
this.
Jared, just keep picking up that phone.
Because we're going to be adding an EL staff member probably in May to keep our commitment for next year. And as we firm up the next gen budget, that makes me feel a lot better. No doubt. It gives me a 3-year. But that 3-year window is going to end at some point, and hopefully on the back end of it, there's another thing that can relieve some pressure. So that's all I have, unless anybody has questions. Okay.
Under new business.
All right, new business. We've got our friends online. Brent, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear. Brent
Good.
Haybaker, if you remember from Baker Tilly, the bond council is going to do a little presentation with the board so we can kind of choose the option and direction we want to go as far as funding our preschool. Brandon Penrod, who has met with the board, is online as well and can answer questions, but he led a finance meeting for us a couple weeks ago, and this topic was discussed at that point. But Brandon, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. And do I have the option to share my screen with you as well?
You should have. Is that
Okay.
possible? There we go.
Well, first of all, thank you everyone for allowing me to be here again. I know I've been in person with you and also virtually here, and had a chance to be in front of a few of you before, and I know there's a few new members on the board since I've last been here, so just wanted to say first off, thank you for having me back. We're going to walk through a couple different options for borrowing here this evening, and certainly you feel free to stop me and ask questions, or just feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions as you go, and let's make this as conversational as we can here. But I'll start by just walking through the presentation. So this first slide here is a graph of the school corporation's existing debt service and lease rental obligations. You'll see that each bar graph color here represents an individual obligation. So the school corporation has a couple common school fund loans. They have general obligation bonds that were issued in 2018, first mortgage bonds that were issued in 20, and then the most recent first mortgage bonds that were issued at the end of 2022 here. So you'll see that annual payments in 2022 were around $800,000, and then in 2023, school corporation took those up to about $1,100,000. And you have a drop off from that $1,100,000 down to around $950,000 in 2024 and 2025 and 2026. Starting out in 2027, the school corporation is going to see kind of what I would call a waterfall effect in their debt, where it begins to kind of step off in levels until you're out there in 2031, where the school corporation really captures a lot of capacity in their capacity for annual payments. So really the school corporation is in a good position to take on additional debt because of this waterfall effect that I'm kind of mentioning here, and really bring annual payments out in the future up to those levels of the 2023 annual payments. So doing this in a way that does not increase the debt service tax rate above the 2023 debt service tax rate. And I've got a few scenarios here that we'll walk through where we do this with a couple different changes in size of borrowing, and also the underlying variables that come with those changes in size of borrowing. The slide here then is just the numerical representation of that graph. So if you want to see how the individual obligations are broken down and how they add up to the total on the far right column there, this is a good slide to go through the detail at a later date. Summary page here of two different borrowings. Scenario one is a $3,265,000 borrowing. Scenario two is a $5,545,000 borrowing. Scenario one, the estimated proceeds available for the project would be around $3,050,000. In scenario two, the estimated proceeds available for the project would be $5,000. Now, when I say proceeds available to the project, that means construction proceeds and soft costs for construction. The cost of issuance would then be the approximately $200,000 above that for the scenario one, and the approximate $545,000 above the $5 million for scenario two. Estimated interest expense for scenario one is $2,569,000.73. In scenario two, you can see as you borrow more, your interest expense does increase. And that puts you at $4,128,598. And then you have this line item here for capitalized interest expense. And what this capitalized interest expense is, it's a mechanism that is often used when borrowing that involves issuing additional debt in order to keep the levy at a point where we're not going to increase the debt service tax rate. So in order for scenario 2 to not increase the debt service tax rate, the school corporation would issue $302,000 of additional par amount, which would then be immediately paid back. The bond proceeds would then be used to pay those first 2 payments of interest expense on the bonds. So it's a mechanism that is very short term and is often used. It's often used in economic development. Is where you'll see it more often than with school financing, but it is a very powerful tool that we can use in order to manage that tax rate so that we're not increasing the tax rate for a year or so while you make a longer coupon. The assumed repayment term is 20 years or 19 years and 5 months if we get down to the brass tacks here. And the estimated increase on the debt service tax rate is $0. So each of these are done without increasing the debt service tax rate for the school corporation. I think that's something to really hone in on here. A couple assumptions that we're using here, we're using 5.5% interest rates. We are in a rising interest rate environment at the moment, so we've built in some additional cushion from where interest rates actually are as we sit today. So these numbers are conservative when you're looking at them as well. A few things that I'll just point out. The big differences between these 2 borrowings obviously are the proceeds available for the project, so your purchasing power, and then the borrowing amount. And also, as we take a look at the graphs here on the next couple pages, you'll see that your ability to borrow in the future is going to be a little bit different with each of these scenarios. So scenario 1, which is at the non-controlled threshold, meaning that the school corporation would only need school board approval and a project hearing to continue forward with the project. You can see that this is repaid over a 19-year period. It's a $3,265,000 borrowing, and you would have about $3,050,000 for construction proceeds available for the construction project. What I wanted to point out here is that in this scenario, the tax rate is level at the 50 cents that you see in 2023 all the way through 2026. So 2026, 2027 timeframe would be the next time that the school corporation would really have ability to come back and look at another project or another borrowing where they could take on a project without increasing the tax rate again. So the tax rate would be level for the next 4 years really, and then you wouldn't be able to take on a project without increasing the tax rate until that 26, 27 time range. Again, you have the actual breakdown of the payment years. Your far left column is the year that the annual payments are made. The second column then is the existing debt service obligations of the school corporation as we stand today. And then the third column are the payments that would be made on the proposed $3,265,000 issue, with the far right column being the total, where you see $1,188,000 out in 2024 and $1,112,000 out in 2025. And that's where we're generating the levy that requires the 50-cent tax rate. So scenario, it's a few different things here. We're estimating that you would have about $5 million for proceeds of the project on a borrowing of $5,545,000. one of the main differences here is that this is above the non-controlled project threshold for the school corporation, meaning that in order for the school corporation to issue bonds of this size and scale, there's going to need to be 2 preliminary determination hearings and a project hearing that can occur at the same time as the preliminary determination hearing, open to the public. And then there's a 30-day wait period in which the public can petition the project and open it up to referendum if possible. So this project being subject to those taxpayer controls, where the first project was not subject to those taxpayer controls. If you remember, the first project generated $3 million, approximately $3,050,000. This project will generate around $5 million for construction proceeds. And then the takeaway here that I really want to hone in on is that when we look at the tax rate on scenario 2, the school corporation's expected tax rate would be at the 50 cents from 2023 through 2029, meaning that it's a few years longer before the school corporation could take on an additional borrowing without increasing the debt service tax rate. So by increasing your borrowing now, you're putting on hold maybe some projects that you might otherwise have done in 2026 until that 2029, 2030 time range. Which not necessarily, if that's in the plan of the school corporation, then there's no issue with that, but just something to think about as you compare these two borrowings. The other thing is, as we look at the kind of barbershop pole-looking bar chart here, the brown graph represents your outstanding obligations, the blue is the proposed debt, and then the barbershop bar chart here represents capitalized interest. So the capitalized interest, again, it's a financing mechanism where we would issue an additional approximately $302,000 of debt, and then come back and use that additional debt that was issued to immediately pay off $302,000 of debt service in that first calendar year, so that the debt service tax rate doesn't rise in 2024. So those are the main differences between the two. And then again, as we move on to the next page, you're going to see the numerical breakdown of the existing debt obligations of the school corporation, the proposed debt, and then the illustrative and proposed in the far right column totals. And you can see here we get basically to the same place. We're at about $1,200,000 in annual payments, $1,137,000 annual payments from 2025 through 2028. And that's really where you're driving that 50-cent tax rate levy from those annual payments. And really that's all I have for you this evening, but I certainly would love to hear any questions that you may have or any additional details that you'd like to hear from.
Any questions for Brent or Brandon from the board?
Just for my own clarification, say we did go ahead with the 5 million and time is all said and done, the project comes in at 4. What happens to that money that's still there, basically?
So Brandon, Brent, the question is, if we sell bonds for 5 million, but our project comes in at 4 million, what happens with that $1 million out there? And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but Ice Miller will write this in a way that the funds will be able to be used for other facilities and or grounds approved by the board.
So, okay, so it kind of goes into a fund then.
Construction fund.
Okay.
Right.
And say we want to then pull 500,000 out of that for that, how do we do that? Do we have to have a meeting? Or do we handle it just like any other improvements and everything
So what
else?
we do is we go to bid on the preschool and see where, and get our bids back. And if we come back with a bid package of 4.2 million, we would have a conversation. And there's some things in line that we could definitely look into addressing right off the bat. Playgrounds around those areas, remodeling the classrooms that are going to be left over from the preschool, those type of things. So those are restrooms. Those are conversations that will follow once. But we need to load up potential.
Right, I understand
Yes,
that.
yep,
I'm
yep.
just asking if it comes in, which, yeah, that'd be great if it does.
Sure.
Like I said, we can, but I just want to make sure that, how do we make sure that we're transparent with the community, what we're doing with those funds? I mean,
Yep.
just that's the big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
So Mr. Black, a few things there. Like you mentioned, Ice Miller would keep the purpose of the project rather broad, so that the school board and the project team can build contingencies should there be any type of additional dollars available. But also, we would set up the timing of the sale sometime around when after bids would be received, so we have an idea going into the sale of how many dollars would need to be produced for the projects that want to be tackled with this money. So, and I wouldn't estimate that projects are going to come in lower than what you expect at this time, just because of the environment that we're in. But say your project came in at $4 million, like you were saying, the school corporation would then have the option to either take on additional projects that maybe were contingent upon having those dollars available, or we could go out to the market and only borrow what the school corporation asks us to borrow. So
Okay.
you would have approval for the $5,545,000. But should you decide that, these bids came in and we're going to be able to tackle all the projects that we want to be able to tackle with only $5 million or $4,500,000, which that'd be a great scenario, right? Then we're not going to issue more debt than the school corporation would want in total proceeds.
Okay, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Good
You
explanation.
just have to keep in mind that your ability to do another bond project is
Right. You
spaced
you
out.
just
So,
moved it
to
quite a
give
few
it back,
years. Yeah.
yeah,
Right, but I
You
get
should.
it, but we just want to make sure.
there's always stuff that needs
So
done.
really what we need and what our team needs to us to decide on, so they can hammer out the timeline as far as the process is that the board needs to vote on option 1 or option 2. So that would come in form of a motion page that in favor of 1, and then we can get moving on putting the wheels in motion. And I also want to make sure the board understands that we won't do any, we'll start the bond capturing process, but the building project process, as far as talking about the ins and outs of the preschool, I really don't want to do that until I get a shovel on the ground on the one that's out back. So we're going to have some time to work out those
Right.
details, but this
But
puts
the
in
debt
motion.
service tax rate is going to stay
Yeah.
right where it's at, 0.
And we're just basically looking at a 3-year difference on when we can
Right.
do
When
another
you can do
project.
debt again. Yep.
So either proposition, nobody's taxes are going up because of this.
Taxes stay low, and again, the neutral and Brandon just emphasized those are with inflated assumptions too. So there's metrics built in there to protect us in case there's some crisis as well.
Will there be any grant money available for preschool?
Yeah, the only real risk there that the tax rate could change would be legislation changing, that would change the way that the school has to levy debt. So
Sure.
outside of that, we're looking at conservative approach here to keep the tax rate at the 50 cents moving forward from 2023. And then you would have no increase on your debt service tax rate. There are other tax rates that make up a total tax rate for the school corporation. So operations fund tax rate is separate from that debt service tax rate. So keep it in mind that we're just talking about the debt service tax rate here.
Jared, your question?
We talked to Neil something about there could be some grant money out there.
There's
especially for
grant
our
money.
school system, the way we're set up right now.
Yep, and I'd say a lot of that, like I got an email yesterday that there's a grant, early childhood learning through the Lilly Foundation that is going to open up here in June. That's going to be worth $150,000 to $250,000. So those are dollars that we can certainly put towards
Yeah. Okay.
said project for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Depending on the parameters, it might be a parameter of, you know, you can use this money for staffing for preschool, or you can use this
We'll need
money
that
for
too.
furniture. So yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
we need a motion for the option 1 of 3.2. If anybody's interested in making a motion on that.
I'd like to move that we accept option 2.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any more discussion about it? Everybody good? Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Beth.
Yes.
Okay. Brandon, I don't know if you guys caught that, but they did vote and approved moving forward with option 2. Do appreciate your time, and it looks like we're going to be spending more time together here in the next 2 months. So thank you.
Look forward to it.
All right.
Great. Well, thanks again, and everyone have a great evening.
You too. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Next on the agenda is 7.2.
Asking, so work with this through Mr. Shelley concerning the old central office and removing that. We just had a couple situations. I don't know if anybody's been in a while. It's getting quite moldy, and we've had some situations where it looked like people have gotten in there. Quite honest with you, it's becoming a bit of a safety hazard, and there's no reason to hold on to it because when we build the preschool, it's going to be in that area. So I'm just asking that the board allows me to start getting bids to remove that old building.
I will gladly make that motion.
Second.
It's,
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? The only thing I have about that is the Union City Fire Department is not interested in burning that down.
too close.
I thought it'd be a great controlled burn.
It would be.
Yeah.
It saves you money, let me tell you.
Sharpen your skills.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Beth.
Yes.
Next item here is huge credit to the work Neil's done with the next gen side of things. But one of the requirements from the Department of Education was to establish a non-for-profit board to assist in governing oversight with the use of funds, and just a partnership board. And we kind of had a natural fit with what's happening at Vision Corner. So the Vision Corner Partnership Board has been defined, again, through Neil and our friends at Empower Schools. And there's an MOU that we need to sign to move to the next step with the Department of Ed to open up the funding. So just need approval from the board.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jerry, Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Beth.
Yes.
7.4, 7.5, actually 7.4 through 6, I think we can pair together here. These are all summer school offerings. The first is offering the first inaugural STEAM camp. Again, credit to Neil and Phil Lynch and Clorinda Cooley for grabbing the bull by the horns to make that possible for the kids. They're planning some really, really cool things.
Oh, sounds like fun.
We're all going to want to be a part of that. There's no doubt in my mind. And then the remediation schedule for our IREAD 3 kids, and then summer school course offerings. So we just ask that the board approve those 3 together for summer offerings.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve 7.4, 7.5, and 7.6.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Beth.
Yes.
Next item here, approval to spend the rainy day funds. We work with Moisture Management, who's taken care of the roofs here at Randolph Eastern for a long time. We have one last roof to get taken care of to put us out for a good while with the envelope of our building, which is a great space to be in. Bids actually were just a little lower than we had anticipated, which blew my mind in this world, but they are. Just ask that the board give us approval to sign that agreement and get them on the books, get that done this summer.
I make a motion to approve that project.
And that will be paid from rainy day funds.
Okay. Have a motion, we got a second?
Second.
Been moved and second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Bev.
Yes.
Last item is always the easiest to do as a board is accept donations from outside entities. I got a nice surprise the other day. Lindsay actually forwarded the email to us, but I got a $5,000 donation to the Union City FFA from the America's Farmer Grows Communities Organization. That's a mouthful. And it's sponsored by the Bear Fund, so that will go straight into the ECA account at the high school for our FFA.
Good. What, is there any restrictions on using it and everything
No,
else, so they
just-
can use it for trips and
Yep.
supplies? And
Make a motion to accept it.
Second.
Moved and second. No discussion needed. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Bev.
Yes.
Review reports.
I filled that out for years. I'm glad we finally got one.
Share the reports with the board, just ask if you have any questions. Our cafeteria number reports, it leveled out after the heart attack that some of us had in February. So feeling much better about that. Enrollment has leveled back out, and we're starting to regain some kids that we've lost, so that's always a good sign. But any questions on the? Okay.
Nope.
Next item, do need a final approval of the Neola policies that the board has had under review for the past 6 weeks, I guess. So we do need approval of that package of policies.
Need a motion on this?
Yes.
Okay.
I move that we approve the Neola policies, volume 335.1.
Need a second.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Jerry,
Yes.
Linda,
Yes.
Tim,
Yes.
Wendy,
Yes.
Bev.
Yes.
Corporation Department comments.
Any staff members with, got anything to say? I do have a couple things real quick. I know it's been a long one, so bear with me. I do want to applaud Rosemary Elmore and her team and the Ivy Tech team for the program that they put together this spring, winter for English in the Workplace certificates. We awarded 10 certificates last night, and honestly, that's the inaugural class of what's to come at Vision Corner as far as adult education. And I told Tim earlier, he wasn't really quite sure what kind of impact it had, but the folks that received certificates were extremely grateful and emotional over the experience. So I appreciate the board's support of that. And Ivy Tech, great partnership that we're developing with Ivy Tech Richmond. It was just a really, really cool program. And honestly, it doesn't happen without Rosemary Elmore.
I know. She's wonderful.
She made it happen. So, and the other thing, just great reminder: spring break starts tomorrow. Kids do not come to school tomorrow, and they're out all next week and come back the following Monday. So that's all I have.
Any board comments?
Do you have any update with Cooper Farms? Just,
Lunch with them right after spring break, the 27th.
okay,
Yeah, I think I
27th?
sent you that calendar
Okay.
invite. Yeah.
If nothing else, this meeting's adjourned.
Thank you.